Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, where today we swap out the factory radiator for a CSF triple pass. That guy right there. So I guess we better strip everything off the front.
Yeah, I was hugging a tree when a lady at the zoo was amused by me. I said, hey girl, you think I'm cute to see? You're cute too, so come and get yourself introduced to me. She got closer. I said, listen, you look like your life's good, but one thing's missing, it's me. I might be the wrong species, but love accommodates for many different niches. So don't let it trouble you. I may be an animal, but I'm a fanatical cuddler. She wanted to snuggle. I told her I'd love to. I said I'd climb down, then I'd come and climb up her. I wanna ride up on your back like a rucksack. What's that? You like my tummy? Wanna touch that? Tickle it. My fur's soft, come and jiggle it. I'll wrap my paws around till you're in the thick of it. Yeah, I wanna squeeze you nice and tight, then hug a little harder, and love you like koalas do. I wanna snooze in the sunlight, then nap a little hard.
And it's out, folks. That easy. So let's have a bit of a look at the CSF triple pass 370Z G37 radiator. And here it is, folks. Now, I must come clean here. I have had it out of the box before. I had a bit of a look at it the other day. It's been sitting on the shelf for quite a while. And I sort of thought, oh yeah, I'll pull it out of the box and I'll sort of have a bit of a look at it and start making preparations to fitting it in. And I must say I was a little bit underwhelmed with it. The first thing that struck me was the quite kind of janky drain plug setup that they have on them. Basically, this is their drain plug arrangement here. This is one of their drain plug bolts. It's just a bolt which is made of aluminium, mind you, with a rubber seal on it. They're M10 by 1.25 and they just thread in. One thread's in down here, the other thread's in over here, and mate, they're just, in my opinion, they're just the most crap thing ever. Aluminium bolt, yeah, not on my watch. Mate, I guarantee that thing will strip out as soon as you look at it. Not a friggin' chance. Why the hell they would put something like this in there, I have absolutely no idea. But to me, and that's just my personal opinion, folks, I reckon it's pretty friggin' average. So this is a solution that I've come up with. If you look down here, you'll see that there's an AN fitting. What I've done here, folks, is I've just simply tapped out the original thread, which as I say was M10 by 1.25. I've just run a 1/8 NPT tap into that thread. That size metric thread taps out really well with 1/8 NPT. You don't need to run a drill into it or anything. Just run the tap straight in, and the 1/8 NPT will basically remove all of the original threads and just gives you a nice clean thread. It's a really good, easy way of doing it with that particular size. So this is a 4AN to 1/8 NPT fitting here, and I've got the same thing over here. Same deal, folks. 1/8 NPT, 4AN. And what I'm going to do is just simply use an AN cap on these. I don't have any in stock at the moment, folks, but that's just an AN cap there. That's an AN3. Obviously, it's not going to sort of fit on there, but that's my plan. I've got a couple of ordered. They should be here later on today, actually. But I can certainly install the radiator without having the caps and just put them on later. Draining the radiator isn't something that you do that often, but it is something you want the capacity to do. These 1/8 NPT to AN4 fittings does reduce the size of the drain point quite a bit. You can say go 1/8 NPT to AN6, but you're not going to actually get anything out of that because where the fitting runs into the 1/8 NPT, it tapers back down to the same size. So AN4 runs the same size all the way through. AN6 ends up at the same size as AN4 does in the area where it goes to 1/8 MPT. So either way, you sort of get the same thing. So at least I know when the time comes, I'll be able to get the goddamn cap off very easily instead of those janky screws out, because I've really got my doubts whether you would actually be able to undo them once they're in. I reckon the aluminium would bind up on itself like a bastard. You could put a heap of anti-seize on it, I guess, but there's still no saying you're going to be able to remove them, in my opinion. If I'm not happy with this solution, at least I have the capacity to just chop whatever's on here off and weld in my own things. Fortunately, I have the capacity to do that, so it's not that big an issue. But I know for a lot of folks, they don't. You know, you expect to buy a product and it to be, particularly these things aren't cheap, you would expect everything about it to be Mickey Mouse. I've also been over it and had a bit of a look at the welding, and most of the welding's okay, but some of it doesn't look that great to me. But what do I know? So I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to install this thing and see how it holds up. As I say, worst case scenario, I can just pull it out and friggin' junk it, lesson learned, or I can repair it if it's something that I have the capacity to repair. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of choice with aftermarket radiators for the 370Z and G37. You know, you're just kind of limited. None of the brands seem to have a pretty good reputation as far as reliability in this platform. So at this stage, I guess I've just got to suck it and see. So I'll just keep my eye on it, folks, and if it starts to seem like it's going to cause any problems with leaks or anything like that, I'll just have to sort of have a look at it. As you guys probably know, I'm in Australia. There's no support for these products. I bought this from Z1 a while ago online, so you know, I've got Buckley's of getting any warranty from CSF, but from what I hear, even people in the US have had the same problem. But we'll fit the thing anyway, and we'll just see how it goes. So I'll unwrap it and we'll throw it in, eh? Certainly looks the part though, folks. I'll give them that. Just a quick note, folks, there are 4 of these rubber grommets that you have to take off the pins on your old radiator, the locating pins, and mount them on the new CSF radiator. You can't just drop it in the way it is, or it'll tend to sort of wobble around a bit on you. But they just go onto the pins on the bottom here, you know, just like that. Same on the top. Now it's ready to go in. Looks like we need to do a little bit of a trim of the radiator support panel just to get it to go back properly. There's a couple of fins, I guess you'd call them, on the radiator support panel that are hitting against the end tanks on the CSF radiator. So I'll just pull it back out, get a Dremel in there, give it a bit of a trim, and see if we can get this thing to go in properly. Time to see if we've achieved the goal, folks. We're still not there. We've gotten rid of the flexing of the core from the bottom, but we still can't get our alignment on our original lock-ins. What to do? What to do? I think I need to investigate this further, folks. Rightio, I found another bit of a spot where it's hitting. I don't know if you can see it there, but I've got a bit of a mark with a paint pen. This corner of the radiator is hitting on that corner up there before everything else touches. Honestly, folks, this could be my fault. I am putting a manual triple pass radiator into an automatic vehicle. My only concern is that the radiator support panel could be different for manual and automatic, although I doubt it. I can't imagine this and tooling up for two different radiator support panels when there's virtually no difference other than a couple of holes on one end to get the pipes in and out. But either way, we'll make this thing fit. I must say though, folks, that the way it sits in there without any modifications, you would possibly be able to force it in and force the clips on to fit, but it puts a lot of flex into the core. So if you have fitted one of these and just kind of forced it in, I'd rethink it, because you're sort of asking for trouble. These things don't look that strong to begin with, and if you are putting any pressure on the core and flexing it in any way to get it to fit in without modifying the radiator support panel, I reckon you're in for a bit of grief. Anyway, we'll keep going until we can get this sucker to fit properly. Take two, let's see if that's gotten it. Alright, it looks like I've achieved the correct alignment on this side with no force being applied to the radiator in any kind of a bending fashion. And I'm a little bit shy on this side over here. So, we've just got to see what the problem is now. Yes. Just, so close, folks, so close. The top of the radiator now is hitting hard against this long edge that runs right along the radiator support panel there. So there's nothing left to knock out that's going to stop it fitting. It's flexing slightly on this side. It's only a couple of mil, the amount that we need to get it across. But it's like something's kind of twisted. So I'm going to have a bit of a look at this and see what I can come up with. I might have to move the bottom in on this corner a little bit more, which will take the whole side in, because I can't just pull this corner in without twisting the radiator core. Once again, I'll have a little bit of a think about that. I think I might go and have some lunch, have a bit of a think about it, and come back and tackle it. See you after lunch, folks. So after taking a few measurements, folks, and particularly putting some winding sticks across the CSF radiator, I've discovered the problem, and that is that the CSF radiator actually has a small wind in it, which is equivalent to our error, which is making it hard to fit at the moment. So not the end of the world. A little bit of a grind here, a little bit of a tuck there, and I think I should be able to make it work okay. So I've made a couple of modifications to the radiator support panel, and I'm about to put it back in to see if I've finally nailed the fitment. Take 3. We're pretty close, folks, but still no cigar. I think I need to make a couple more little mods, and I should have it. So a couple of more things that I've spotted, folks. Firstly, the radiator support panel does have a slight bow in it, coming this way towards the front of the car, which is absolutely not working in our favour. If the bow was the other way, that'd be fantastic. So unfortunately, a lot of these fitment issues are due to the fact that the CSF radiator is substantially thicker than the factory radiator, which closes up all of the tolerances and margins for error that are built into the factory system. Whereas by measurement, it quite possibly would fit, but the reality is that it does not, just due to variations in production of pieces and all that sort of stuff. Now, this is the sort of thing that you have to take into consideration when you're fitting aftermarket parts to anything. You know, this radiator is designed to fit this vehicle, but it is an aftermarket part. You have to take that with a grain of salt. I never ever assume with aftermarket parts that they're going to fit without some sort of adjustment. Unfortunately, folks, it's just the reality of how it is. There are very few aftermarket parts that I've ever come across that are actually what they are advertised to be, which is a bolt-in fit. Just doesn't happen, at least in the majority of time. So this is how I've sort of approached it so far. If you look down here, this is one of the mounts for the radiator here. I've enlarged it quite a bit and sort of slotted it back towards the front of the vehicle. Now that will allow me to get the twist out, which is the fault of the radiator. Fair cop, CSF, that's your fault, but it's not huge. And the way I've allowed for this to work correctly is the rubber that the radiator would sit into there. Now there's quite a good chance of it being able to push through into the hole. So what I have here, folks, is a stainless washer that just fits nicely over the rubber there, extends out on the edge, and corrects the problem where I've enlarged the hole. That can no longer push through, but yet it will work backwards and forwards as in a slot, which gives me the adjustability that I need to correct the twist in the radiator. So that's one problem solved. The next thing is the general issue with the bow in the radiator support panel. The fact that the radiator sits against the center of the radiator support panel before it hits on the ends, which is stopping us locking in the radiator with our locking pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do here, if you look underneath here, in the very center of the radiator support panel, I have a section marked here with a white paint pen. I'm actually going to remove that, which gets the majority of the bowed area out of the way. Now there is webbing on the back of the radiator support panel and quite a bit of sort of structure that ties it all in together. I don't feel that this is going to significantly impact on the strength of the radiator support panel by removing this. Like, you know, it's not like it's a structural part of the vehicle, it's just a radiator support panel, and it's certainly going to be well and truly strong enough to do its job. If I cut that out and it has a whole heap of flex in it, well, shit, I'll look at that if that's the case, but I really can't see that being a problem. So I think between that, if I do that, and another thing I can do is where these locking pieces go in, I can actually enlarge this slightly towards the front, there's still quite a bit of room for them to lock in correctly, so they can allow the radiator to sit slightly at the front and just touching slightly on the radiator support panel in the center of the vehicle. I can actually force it to fit in and lock, and have it just fit and lock all the radiator tabs, but what that does is it flexes the radiator support panel and pushes it really hard against the core of the radiator, which, as I say, allows me to fit it, but I think over time it's going to stress the core and possibly cause the radiator to leak, crack, whatever. At this stage I want to do everything in my power not to put this radiator core under any kind of stress so that it can perform its job without having to fight against a twist or something pushing against it, which is going to cause it to crack. Now, I'm particularly concerned about this because of reports from many people having problems with their CSF radiators. Who knows, a lot of it could be due to installation issues like this that haven't been picked up when they've either installed the radiator themselves or had a workshop to do it. A lot of people just aren't prepared to put in the time to fix all of these small issues to make things work properly, which is a little bit on the sad side, but hey, that's the way the world works. It's all about the bottom line. And I'm sure the customer would feel that way as well in a lot of situations. If one shop says they're going to charge you $100 to fit it, another one says they're going to charge you $300 to fit it, well, most people aren't going to be able to justify where the difference is and are going to go with the cheaper workshop. But you may find that the more expensive price, they may have a bit of experience and they're covering themselves for things such as this, so they will take the time to fix any issues that come up rather than just turning a blind eye to them. Anyway, that's my little rant over with. I'll keep making minor adjustments to this whole scenario until I'm happy with the fit up. So next thing, I'll cut a piece out under there and then we can put it back in again for I think the 4th time this time and see how we're going. So there it is there, folks. That's a bit of a slice I've made on the radiator support panel. You can see all of the webbing is still intact in behind it. It's all quite strong. It seems to have made absolutely no difference. I would think that most of the strength is probably in the webbing anyway. So basically what I've removed is that just front face along there, and this is the worst area. So I'll probably find that it now hits in these spots on either side of it, but at least it'll allow it to go in probably a couple more millimeters. Focus, baby. So I'm about to do another test fit. Every little bit helps, folks. That's what it's all about, just little by little. So it's definitely sitting back in there now, folks. And as I mentioned, it's now hitting just on the edge of that spot, but it's certainly moved it back, equivalent to the thickness of that, which is probably about 1/8, I reckon, about 3 mil. So I'm getting really close. I reckon I'm actually close enough that these may even lock in now without putting any pressure on the radiator. If they do, I'll see if there's any pressure on it, and if I need to, I'll just trim a little bit out of here. But we're looking pretty good, folks. At this point, I reckon we're pretty damn close. Well, you'll not go in. Alright, that's really close, folks. really close. I think I'll just make a little bit of a grind out of these tops, and then I reckon it's going to be pretty good, because as long as there's no pressure on the radiator, I think we should be pretty good. We've still got a little bit of a twisting action going on there, but I think if I pull this one back slightly here, it will get rid of that. And I'm probably not going to need to take the radiator out to do it. We shall see. I might take it out anyway. So here we go again, folks. That's one. That's two. So I think we'll call that in, folks. There's no pressure against the core anymore. That went in quite easily. See, that's all. You can actually sort of see that there's actually a little bit of clearance there now. That's good. There's no pressure on our core, which is what we've wanted right from the start. At this point, I'm pretty happy with that fit up. But just let me say, CSF, if you're out there listening, all of this could have been avoided if you just moved those locating pins 5mm that way, and everything would have just fitted straight in. None of the dramas with bloody cutting anything, rounding anything out. That's just ridiculous for a product that's mass produced to not have your jig set up correctly right from the beginning, mate. It's a bit shit, but nowadays that's what you expect from the aftermarket industry. As I say, something that could have been so simple if done right from the factory. When they leave issues like that and then the end user has to sort them out, that's where they start having problems, because people don't take the effort to do what I've just done. They either don't have the skills themselves to do it, or even to recognise that there's a problem. The workshop's not prepared to put in the time because they're not being paid enough to do that sort of crap, and you end up with issues. I guarantee that would have created problems with the core, possibly with leaking and all that kind of stuff. So CSF, get your shit together, mate. That's bullshit. The fact that the core had a bit of a twist in it, well, you know, once again, it should be clamped in a jig, so there's no chance of that happening when it's all welded up. Whether your jig's got a twist in it, I don't have a freaking clue, but all these things add up and make it a real pain in the ass installation, one that's just fraught with potential issues that could cause the failure of the radiator. So that's my whinge over and done with. I guess I better just put it all back together now. And that's pretty much it for the CSF radiator install, folks. Everything's pretty much back together. I got a whole heap of wiring to deal with later, but that's a whole nother issue. One more problem I had with the radiator when I was installing the AC lines, the skinnier of the AC lines, which connects up to the core down the bottom. The boss on the radiator that the bolt threads into that secures the lower hard line wasn't tapped out properly. It only had 2 or 3 turns on it, so I went to put the bolt in and it would just sort of start binding up, and so yeah, I had a bit of a look at it and it just hadn't been properly tapped out, so I ran a tap through it, which was really awkward to get to without pulling the radiator back out again, which I didn't want to do. And yeah, it was just a pain in the ass having to re-tap a hole which just hadn't been done properly. They'd started the tap and just fucking left it, which is just beyond me. Anyway, hopefully I've sorted out all the problems with it and it will give me some sort of reliable service, fingers crossed. The fact that the radiator core is in a relaxed position, there's no pressure on it in any way other than it's just sitting in its mounts, just, you know, like I say, nice and relaxed. Hopefully that's the key to a lot of the problems with this radiator. As I said just briefly before, they're all issues that could easily have been solved in the manufacture of these radiators, just, you know, better quality control or better design from the start, whatever. But having to hack away at stuff to put an aftermarket product like this in that's supposedly designed to fit, it's just not on, you know, it's just sloppy. But it's all good now. I guess we'll see. I'll probably do an update in a year or so's time just to let anyone know how it's all going. If there's any failures with the radiator, obviously I'll throw a bit of a video up on YouTube and take a bit of a look at it. But still plenty more to come on my DIY twin turbo build here, folks. So, as always, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Always a bloody pleasure to have you here, folks. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment. Always nice to talk to you guys. And I'll see ya on the next one. Cheers.